What's up, Stitt-Heads? We are in it. Ooh, this is gonna be my 4th of July edition episode, hence the red, white, and blue PBRs. And it's crazy, man. Me being a musician, me being a conspiracy guy, being a little political commentator and whatnot. It's cool when you can blend all the different subjects together. And today's guest, you might have known him musically for years, but if you didn't, you might know him for some things that happened politically in the previous years coming, a few years ago. So, anyways, Jon Schaffer from Sons of Liberty, from Iced Earth, and from January 6th, I guess. So, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Thanks for doing this. Big fan of Iced Earth. I love your new band, Sons of Liberty. I love that the imagery, the lyric content, the riffs are badass. And first question, do you feel naked not having a guitar in your hand, just singing?
Well, actually, Sons of Liberty is 17 years old, and the
Mm.
songs on Thought Crimes, the first record came out in 2009. It was called Brush Fires of the Mind, and I released it on Alex Jones' show. Actually, I
Awesome.
had contacted. I was wanting to write this song, Jekyll Island, about the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. So I got in touch with the author, G. Edward Griffin, to get his blessing on it, and he said yes, absolutely. And I sent him the demo of it, and he was, I mean, he's 95 now, so
Oh, wow.
it wasn't his cup of tea musically, but he saw the value in it, and he was like, "Oh, this is great, and you need to go on Alex's show." And I said, "Okay." I mean, I knew who Alex was, but he said, "I'm going to call him and I'm going to make the contact." And so it was December of 2009 that I released Brush Fires of the Mind on Alex's show. And it was done originally with drum programming to keep the cost down. So it was like a total passion project.
Gotcha.
And I mean, I did the majority of the instruments, and the lead vocals, obviously. And then Jim Morris played a lot of his guitar solos on most of it. Troy Seeley played actually on two songs on that. He played a solo on Feeling Helpless and Don't Tread on Me. But anyway, then 2011, I did the Spirit of the Times EP, which was 5 songs. And so they canceled all this around J6. They scrubbed the
Hmm.
internet. And so obviously that didn't sit well with me being an
Hmm.
American. I'm like, I don't like censorship. And so anyway, a while back, I had the idea to get in and do real acoustic drums with a drummer that's done. He's a friend of mine. He's a really amazing drummer, and he's a
He's
recording
sick, dude.
engineer.
I was
Yeah,
listening to the
he
album on the way home. I've been listening to it, but yeah, on the way home, crank it up in my freaking truck. I was like, holy shit, dude, the drums sound
yeah
good.
yeah, and he played on Dark Saga and on Something Wicked This Way Comes, and he played on the first Demons and Wizards record, on the
Mm.
Purgatory EP. So he's done. I've worked with him several times through the years, and I knew he was going to get the job done at a high level. And so we went back into the studio, recorded Mark. Jim did a remix of it, and we finished that in December this past year. And I've just been waiting for the fourth to unleash it. So it is really the same. It's the same vocal performance. It's the same guitar performance. It's the same, it's the same, except now it has real drums, which takes it to another level. And
Dope.
the Jim did an amazing job on the mix. So it's really not new material. It may be new to some people because it was kind of an underground release that we didn't do a whole lot of press for. I did Alex's show. I did Judge Napolitano and Eddie Trunk and a
Nice.
couple interviews back in the day, but very little. Because Iced Earth was, that's my band. I
That
mean,
was the main
that was
thing. Yeah.
that was my main thing. But I wanted to get this out, and it feels like the time is right because the things that I wrote about. I mean, it's becoming more and more evident that it's not conspiracy theory. It's maybe conspiracy fact.
Conspiracy
So
fact. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
there's a
So
weird thing in the world where everybody's discovered conspiracies now, and even the most normie people it's like the bullshit is wearing, or the facade is wearing off, and we're seeing through the bullshit nowadays. So even normal people that used to call me crazy 5 years ago, they'll send me a message and go, dude, did you see this thing? And I'm like, ha, dropping those breadcrumbs.
yeah, it's definitely, I would say, COVID was a gift and a curse in that way because a lot of people, since they were sort of off of their normal hamster wheels of life and stuck at home, they
Mm-hmm.
started to see things more. And it really was a serious exercise in government overreach. And that caused some people to wake up. There's been a lot of things that have, whether it be the Federal Reserve or Monsanto or whatever,
Yep.
a lot of things in the years have contributed to the people waking up like, wait a minute, this something's really off here. And so anyway, I want to. My plan is to do new Sons of Liberty stuff, and this is just to get the older stuff up to where it sounds better, and
Yeah.
to get it in people's minds now that may have missed it back then. There's been a demand for it to be on vinyl, and even like Spirit of the Times was never released on anything physical before. It was just on streaming. So it is a new reimagining of it, but it's not new material, and I do want to do more of that. And it's very likely going to happen before any new Iced Earth does.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So, it is interesting that, we were kind of talking a little bit before here. It's like with music and then, conspiracies or government politics, you got like Neil Sean from Journey, who's I love this point he makes, which it does apply to most famous musicians, but like, there's two rules in his band: don't talk politics, don't talk religion. And you're like, okay, I get it. You're one of the biggest bands in the world, but there's also that side of being an artist and you're writing, you're using your passion, it's like there's something about being able to like tell conspiracies or tell truths or point out things that are really happening in the world. And that's what's cool about this Sons of Liberty album is it's like you're saying, it's like it's like you manifested it before or something. You made it in the past, but that now everybody's kind of getting the picture of these things. Like you said, like post COVID and whatnot. And then also, past your January 6th experience and everything. So yeah, dude, people are waking up for it, and I dig it. We need a new old school metal kind of sound back in the music world too.
well, I think there's a lot of artists that try to put out a message that's maybe a little more veiled so that they can avoid some of the heat, but I'm not afraid of heat.
Right.
I wasn't back. I took a lot of heat back when it came out, and I just feel, you know, there's, and it's not because I'm a musician. I think it's important what I say. That's not the point. It's because this affects all of us and our children. I
Right.
mean, it expects future generations, like as far as the eye can see, when we look at just the debt's almost 40 trillion now. I mean, dude, it would take a human being like 32,000 years to count to a trillion with never taking a break. And nobody really thinks about that. And then you look at the unfunded liabilities and all of the derivative fraud and everything, and we're looking at quadrillions, and it's a nightmare. And it's
Yeah.
like this has to be dealt with. We can talk about all these other things, but if we don't get the financial system somehow back to sound money, which I was a big Ron Paul supporter when he
Yep.
ran for 2008 and 12 for those elections. I mean, he didn't win, but he had the most important message of everybody, because all this people's losing the purchasing power is making us poorer. And then we have all this fraud and all this corruption and war. And it's like, this is real, man. I mean, this is a real thing. It's affecting everybody. And there's only a very small part of society around the world that benefits from a system like this. And it's just important that the people understand. It's not because I'm some celebrity and think that my opinion's important. I
Right.
care about people. I care about my child. I care about my family and just people in general. And so I think the only way that we can make a change is if we understand what we're up against. I mean, we have to
Hmm.
understand the problem if we want to figure out a solution. And I think that there's a lot of reasonable people and actually very educated people that don't really understand the Federal Reserve and fractional reserve banking. I mean, I know there are because I've
Yeah.
had discussions with doctors, lawyers, like really brilliant people. But if you just get born into this system and you don't really think about, you have
Yeah,
Federal Reserve
it's
notes in,
barely
in
a
your
hundred
pocket.
years old. Yeah, this
Well,
system's
yeah,
barely 100 years old, and we feel like it's like been like that for 1,000 years. But
yeah.
yeah,
It's
continue.
no, just it's and obviously the founders knew this, and that's why in Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution is it's silver and gold are money. Now, that's debatable whether it has to be that, but the thing that it made it what it was, they knew that it would be the restrainer on government power because you
Hmm.
can't just create it out of thin air. So it almost needs to be something with scarcity. It's a lot harder to abuse that than to print paper. And now we're in the point of where it's just digits. It's not even
Yes.
about the paper. So it's even more dangerous. And I don't know exactly what the solution is, but I hate to think that we're going to go through some devastating, brutal, like road warrior collapse to
Yeah.
figure it out. We don't have to do that if we just inform ourselves and start getting involved, and talking about what is the path forward. I think the path forward is to look back at the past, at what the founders put into place, because it was brilliant. And this, since the creation of the Fed, it became empire, and that's not what they intended.
Hmm.
That it wasn't the goal. It wasn't to be the welfare warfare state and to be the policeman of the world. That is not what they wanted, man. They wanted the opposite of the British model. They did not want any, obviously. I mean, they
Right,
were,
right. And then now
they
we're
were,
like basically in cahoots with them. And sorry to cut you off, but like basically I've been saying for years on this show now, it's like if you want to know what the hell's about to happen in America, look at Canada, UK, or Australia. And basically what those are is those are the test grounds. They try the thing out there, and if it works on the people, then they'll slowly trickle it over here. If they have some revolt or some big, pushback on it, they're like, all right, we'll forget about that for another 5 years and try it again later. But yeah, it's
yeah,
like people we're living in this like I hate to say like I get in like black pill rants sometimes, but it's like there's too many NPCs walking among us kind of thing,
yes,
and the
100%.
problem is that like what you're trying to point out or things like I point out like we're on the same page about stuff like 30 years ago if you're the conspiracy guy screaming about JFK shooting, then yeah, you're informed, but you're talking about something decades ago. We're like Truman Show, where we're trying to point out this is happening around us right now, and nobody's giving a shit, and that's the
Yeah.
scary part is like, are people just conditioned to be cattle at this point or what?
Yes, to a large degree, but it's always been as Sam Adams said, a tireless, irate minority that
Mm-hmm.
can make the change. And we've seen that um, with people that I completely disagree with that have pushed us into this direction since what they call the progressive era. But, there are a couple things that are consistent: math and human behavior.
Yeah.
All right. So, going into this idea that a more powerful state is good. I mean, show me at what point in history that's ever been the case, where at some point the system doesn't turn on the people, doesn't kill the people. I mean, just show me, especially when you get into all of this, what I would argue it's all left. I mean, they like to say that Hitler was right wing. I'm like, really? Because they were National Socialists
Socialists, yeah.
fighting. They were fighting the Fabian socialists in the Anglo-American Empire and the Soviet socialists in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
They're all socialists fighting and killing each other. So it's like, what are we really talking about here? Why are we not focused on America, like the real American version of freedom and liberty and our individual rights and our sovereignty? That's what those guys sacrificed everything for,
Mm-hmm.
and they won against all odds. And it's always been under attack because obviously powerful people don't like. I mean, you got to get into that robber baron mentality, which
Yes.
is they want it all. They don't want the peasants to have anything. And because of the American system and because of the freedoms that we had, it created a lot of wealth for the middle class, even our lower class people. The people here that are in the lowest level are better than people in many parts of the world. I've traveled all over this world, man,
Mm-hmm.
played in over 100 countries. I mean, and toured for decades around the world. They're like, the poverty that we have here, it sucks. I don't like it. I don't like it for anybody, but dude,
Go
go into South America, go to Central America, go to
Eastern
some
Europe or
places in Asia.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eastern
Well,
Europe's desolate
yeah,
and shit too. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, well,
Some
actually,
parts, but
they've gotten more free. That's the interesting thing about when you see what happens with the EU. The
yes.
the people that are standing against globalism tend to be the countries on the east in the Eastern Bloc because they remember. I mean, I started touring Europe right after the wall came down. The first time I went to Berlin, they were
Yeah.
chipping at the wall, man. So
Crazy.
it's still somewhat fresh in Poland and Hungary and in those places. And they've resisted a lot of the idea of open borders and all this stuff because they know what it leads to. But it's just the thing is the people have to decide, is freedom the most important thing? To me, it is. It's not everybody agrees with that. They're, because you're like you're saying about NPCs, they don't want the responsibilities that come with freedom. Well, I don't want the slavery that comes with their weakness.
Yeah.
And that's, that's just it's a debate. Like, I'm completely willing to be convinced that I'm wrong about this,
Yeah.
but I haven't had anybody bring an argument that's reasonable. They say fascist, traitor, racist. And it's like, okay, is that what you got? Because first of all, none of those things are true. And second, you're not bringing an argument. You're just
That's what
like,
I say all the time. You can call me all the words and I'll still stand here and then I'll be like, okay, and so you still didn't
and
give me an answer. Like you're just calling,
yeah,
none of those words phased me. Sure, I'm a racist, homophobic, bigot, blah, 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 whatever. The words are gone. They don't phase me. What's your
right.
argument? Like,
Yes, exactly, dude. That's what is just weird about this period in human history. I
we're the
don't know.
most
I mean, but
informed, but we're also the most uninformed. Like we have these little, Black Mirror cubes in our hand that we can look up anything at our leisure. More like we have the ability to be smarter than any civilization in human history at the click of our fingertips. Like what you brought up about doctors or people, there's that like, there's smart and there's educated. And you can be
yes,
educated and smart, and then you can be educated and retarded. I mean, you could be
yep,
pigeonholed in only one idea of things and then think you know about everything else and you don't know crap. You only know that one little minute thing. But my point is like, yeah, there's a difference between the fact that we can all look up all these crazy atrocities that have happened in history, that are happening currently, and people just don't care. It's like
yeah,
we're screaming at the rooftops.
yeah. But they do more. I can tell you, it's from the time that the first album came out, there are way more people that are awake. And so as bleak as it looks, I still think there are a lot of good people around the world that are trying to make a difference. And
Mm-hmm.
I really, this is a spiritual war as well. And
Yes.
that's really that's really what it is. And it's manifesting in our, in the world. And it's like this, the lines are being drawn in the sand. If you're an NPC, you just, okay, care, just get out of the way, because
Mm-hmm.
this is like, it's a battle between good and evil. And call me a fascist all you want. I'm not the one that owned the big pharma companies that were trying to inject you with
Mm-hmm.
an experimental whatever gene modification, whatever
Yeah.
they were up to. Nor was I in the government that was forcing you to do it or lose your job. That's fascism, man, like textbook. So
Right.
stop. Like, I'm a freedom guy. Stop. But that's
Yeah.
what they do. They just parrot all
Well,
this nonsense,
technically,
and they're
fascism, excuse me, sorry, is just, government corporations kind of working together. So when you got
yes,
like the Sackler family and stuff like that, or you have, you can't sue um whatever pharma companies and stuff if there's side effects with vaccines or whatever, like that's fascism. Like, you know what I mean?
totally.
Like in a weird
Yep.
way, it actually technically is
Oh,
because
it
then that's
is.
that's the government covering up these atrocities these people are doing to us. But
Right.
and then
And
also like
actually
go ahead.
the financial system
Yeah.
is fascism, because it is not, it's a private banking cartel. It's not federal. There's no reserves. It's These
Yes.
people are always going to do what benefits the shareholders of the cartel, not what benefits the people. So therefore, how can it be legitimate money? Well, it's not,
And in
clearly,
times, the literal cartel, when you have like Operation Fast and Furious and Eric Holder and all the, like the guns and shit down with the actual cartels, like the government, I hate to say it, that's why I say I get in black pill mode sometimes, but it's like you're just trying to get people's attention to let them know, like, they don't care about you. Like the left or the right, none of them care about you. If you're on fire on New York's, somewhere laying on the ground and they had to piss as bad as possible, they're still going to go to the bathroom instead of peeing on the guy that's on fire. It's still degrading to
yeah,
get pissed on, but if I'm on fire, at least try to put me out, right?
right.
But but I'm just saying, like they wouldn't even do that for us. And so let's
Yeah.
get back to
Well,
like, with COVID and everything, like we were kind of talking about a little bit. We had this whole summer of love and everybody was able to go batshit crazy in the streets and it was ironic because the government's telling you to stay home and 6 foot distancing and all this bullshit, which I don't know how woo-woo you get, but I mean, we apparently have like a toroidal field. It's about 6 feet, our aura, if you will, that's away. So you lose that sense of feeling and connection with people when you're not that close
Yes.
to them, kind of thing. But my point is they're telling us the contradiction of stay home, save lives, don't be around people, wear your mask, blah blah blah. And then wait a minute, but if it's for George Floyd, we can go burn the cities down. And they literally were saying like the social distancing is different with protests. But then
Yeah.
we get to January 6th and it's the worst thing in the world. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm making this as a joke, but basically January 6th is the worst insurrection of all time because nobody showed up with any guns and nobody took over the damn government. So, it's like, how the hell is that an insurrection?
Well, it's not obviously, but it's it's just if you repeat the lie often enough, then dum dums are going to believe it, and it's just because I think some people are just naively trusting, and then others are complicit, and so you've got a mix of all this, and then you've got the people that critically think, and I hopefully we can increase our numbers on that side of it because you have to be critical. You have to think critically about everything nowadays. I mean, yes, you have information, you have the ability to get information at your fingertips that we didn't have before. Before you would have to read a lot of books. Well, people don't read anymore. You would have to there was real work in researching.
Yeah,
Now it's all there, and you got to be careful of where you go, what there is, because there's also a lot of manipulation. I
for
mean,
sure.
when people say I read on Wikipedia, I'm like, stop.
We can all edit
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's just so there's a lot of things like that out there, and obviously Google searches can be manipulated, but there's still it's out there. You just have to make the effort. And there's always been through history there are people that just don't care, and there's usually a small few that do, and it's rare that anything like I don't want to see violence in this country. I don't want to see a civil war. Man, that's not what this is about. I'm very anti-war, but I'm absolutely pro self-defense. And
Yes.
so that that's very American. That's a very American position. But there's the system that we have. It's all really every system of government around the world. It's all based on aggression of some form or another. And we that's up to us to change our mindset. Can we agree that freedom is the most important thing and letting people live the way that they want to live is a very important thing. Even if you disagree with what they choose, as long as they don't aggress, they should be allowed to do so. If we can get people to think about it that way, instead of trying to force their moral view, however, whatever that view is, I mean, but instead of trying to force that into the law, it would be a much better idea to prioritize freedom because that's going to lead us to the most prosperity and to the most peace.
Right.
And that's just got to we have to change our mindset and realize that hey, I don't agree with those guys and the things that they say or that they do, but you have to allow them to do it if they don't aggress. But
It
this
does,
this
yeah. It
like
goes with a freedom of like, I mean, well, just freedom in general, but it's this idea of live and let live, and as long as you're not harming others, and especially harming children, or
right.
doing anything to make my life worse off while I'm just trying to struggle through it like everybody else is with their kids and family, as long as you're not affecting me, I don't give a fuck what you do. I don't care
Yeah.
if you're gay, black, Muslim, whatever. I mean, whoever, whatever. Like that's on you. But the moment you tell me I have to be like this or I have to accept this or it's we can agree to disagree. It's kind of like what you're saying, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's that there was a time where we had civil discourse and I think back to how things were when I was a kid in the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s were pretty amazing compared to now. I mean, it's a shit show. You got all these kids that are getting they're sucking down ridiculous amounts of corn syrup and they're in
Dude,
front of their
yes.
computers or playing video games. They don't get outside and play. They don't go burn it off. So then they come up with a new category of they're ADD so they can prescribe new pills to them. And it's just
Yes.
like it's a toxic cocktail of like everything around us, and you see the what the effects that COVID had on our children. Like it was, dude, this was like, we can't forget this. This
No.
was a gigantic, these are crimes against humanity, like in every way. And we just can't let this go and pretend like this didn't happen. There
Hmm.
has to be some consequences. I don't know if there will be, but if we stop talking about it and just act like it didn't happen, that's not a solution either, because, you know, they'll just do it again. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. If those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it. And then you got
yep,
Benjamin Franklin, like those who give up whatever liberty for safety deserve neither liberty nor safety.
yeah,
And it's like you'll have Facebook memories or whatever pop up of a picture here and there, and it's funny and it pisses me off when like the beginning of COVID 2020 because that's March of that year. My daughter, graduated a kindergarten that year, right? So that's 2 months into COVID, right? Of the lockdown and the crazy shit. I mean, they still were let them do their graduation, whatever, blah blah blah. But yeah, it's kindergarten. But my point is seeing my daughter having to wear a mask in those old photos, and I'm like, it just pisses me off because most people have just moved on from it. But I'm like, there it is. I
yeah,
remember. I'll never forget
yeah.
it, like you said.
Yeah, and it's caused a crazy amount of mental illness with, well, I think with people in general, but it definitely didn't help the youth who were already struggling with so many different things than I had to struggle with in my youth and generation.
Uh-huh.
Every generation has their struggles. It's just that this was a level of psychological warfare that we've never seen
Yeah.
in our lifetimes, you know. And I just don't think that these people deserve any kind of pass.
Nope. And then didn't Fauci just get just basically pass his time of whatever, I don't remember exactly, like where he couldn't be
The
prosecuted. The statute of
statute of
limitations. Yes.
limitations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I heard about that. I think there's always a way around that if the will is there when it comes to
Yeah, I'm with
something,
you.
when it comes to something like crimes against humanity.
Hmm.
You know, there's
Power to
I
the
don't know.
people kind of thing. I know what you're saying, and I know you're like, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I know you're trying to like be careful, but I know exactly there's going to be a breaking point where we're not going to just trust the damn justice system anymore because the justice system doesn't give a shit about us. And it's like there's this thing about like politicians and our government and people, we're loyal to them. And you're like, no, you guys are retarded. That is backwards. They are supposed to be loyal to us. These are elected
Right.
officials. Judges are elected. It's like these are people that they don't get in these positions without us, and they forget about that. And we could both say the same about musicians. I mean, like you're obviously a badass, huge musician, but my point is like you wouldn't be in those positions without the people that listen to you to put you there. So if you
For
were to
sure.
just give the middle finger to all of your freaking listeners, then why the hell would they give a shit about you anymore? So we're at that breaking point where we realize politics is just WWE wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that way for quite a while, and I think, but I do believe that the justice system is entirely broke. It's not entirely broken. You know, it's really not. It's just there's some problems there, obviously, but I don't see I don't see a way out of this without just trying to to inspire another idea, and that, which
Yeah.
seems weird as with being an American, and I'm pure blood American, man,
Hmm.
100%. You know, I mean, I'm all, since I was a little kid. Because I was there for the bicentennial. I mean, that was a big deal to
Hell
me
yeah,
when I was a
dude.
little
Yeah.
kid. I was inhaling books about the founding when I was a little kid. It was a big deal for me, and it always has been. It's always been really inspirational, and I I know how imperfect they were, but they did something incredible for the entire human cause. I mean, they really
Right.
did what they did. And the guys, like, that was a real war, dude. The sacrifices that those revolutionary era soldiers and the founders, you know, from a legislative standpoint, everything what they put on the line was, and we don't, this is the problem. Even when we're talking about the doctors and lawyers, like, it's an academia problem because it's
Yes.
been captured, because they, and even like the, ever since public schools became a thing, and the parent, it's the nuclear family has been under attack, the male has been under attack, and that causes all kinds of disruptions in the society. And when the messaging has been, at least since the 60s, that we're supposed to hate our country and hate our founding, and that they were just all these evil racists and slave owners. Look, let me just break it to you guys. The founding fathers didn't invent slavery. It's been
Right.
around since man has walked the earth. And actually, it's still around right
Yeah.
now.
How come nobody
And
talks about Libya, where we took out Gaddafi and freaking now they have open trade markets and shit? So you got Muslims selling Africans in Libya, and you're like, we did that. So it's not
right.
like we ended slavery 200 years ago. Like we just kind of readopted it over another. I mean, these things still happen. Everybody's, but yeah, continue. It's like that's just funny that nobody points that out that there's still open slave markets around the
There
world, and
there are,
some of
and
them are at our hand.
there's other forms of slavery. I mean, the sickness that's in our culture where we have a market for child porn and child
Yep.
trafficking and that. I
Yep.
mean, and it's big money, dude. So there's a sickness and a rot in this culture, and I just think it's all. This is the spiritual war, and you got to decide at some point what side are you on. Not whether you're an R or a D, but are you going to stand with the right side of history where no, this, whatever you're trying to do to our children, that's a no-go zone, man. You
Hmm.
know, that's no-go.
Yeah, it's a
And it
bipartisan issue in politics that it's not the Republicans standing up for it, it's not the Democrats standing against it. Like, no, they're both implicated in it. So it's a matter of it's not right or left, like you're saying, it's right versus wrong. Like, which side are you going to
yeah,
stand on?
right. There's that. Then there's the financial slavery. I mean, we don't
Hmm.
have we're debt slaves. So, okay, in the founding era there was chattel slavery. And now we have a different kind of slavery because you we are these people, these politicians are running us into debt that is absolutely unsustainable.
Yes.
So how do we deal with that? You know, I mean, other than like there's so many things that could go horribly wrong. It's a house of cards. And if I do think that there are some good people that are aware of this and doing something or trying to do something. But dude, it's we're getting this is a form of slavery. Just because you're
Yeah.
not in chains, there you're it's like maybe invisible chains, but
Yes.
there's still a chain there. There's you're in a cage, and it's a different form than what it was before, but it's all wrong.
The
So what I'm
fish will
saying is,
swim in the fishbowl, but he's not, yeah, he doesn't realize he's not in the lake anymore.
yeah, it's a they what they've done is demonize these guys to such a degree. I think the bigger motivation is to so that people don't get those brush fires lit. I mean, if you start reading the things that Sam Adams was about, what he stood for,
I'm
and
glad you keep bringing
Jefferson,
him up.
all these
He's one of
guys.
my favorites of the founding fathers. He's not just the beer guy. Sam Adams was one of the most badass of the founding
Oh,
fathers.
absolutely.
John
Yeah,
Adams, his
hardcore.
his his cousin or whatever, was awesome as well, but he was the
Yep.
more like legalese guy and the awesome writer. Sam Adams was the, like boots on the ground kind of guy.
Right. There, I mean, with all John Adams was, you know, arguably there would have been no revolution without him. He was just
Yeah.
not a guy. He was a brilliant mind. He was an attorney and a brilliant attorney, and he believed in the rule of law. When the Boston Massacre happened and he defended the British soldiers,
Hmm.
he was very unpopular with his cousin, with Sam Adams,
Hmm.
and with a bunch of other patriots. But he did it because he was making a point that we can't do. We have, if we want to have freedom, we have to have a rule of law. We have to treat people fairly, and this, regardless of what is being said about them, that's the critical importance of criminal defense attorneys in our system. They are hugely important because it's not whether you think the person is guilty or not. What the criminal defense attorneys are there to do is to hold the government accountable, to make sure every T is crossed, every I is dotted, that everything is, if you're going to put somebody in a cage, we're going to make it as hard as possible. Because those guys, the founders' attitude was it's better that 10 guilty men go free than one innocent be imprisoned.
100%. Yeah.
And that was, Thomas Jefferson was a classical liberal, and that's
Yep.
something that I can get down with. But what they're calling liberals now, it's not, it's not liberal in the true sense of the word.
Bastardized.
And yeah, like most things, a lot of things in
Yeah.
our
Inverted.
language, and yeah, a lot of things in our language end up like that. And I just think that the reason they've demonized them so much and they don't focus on that is because this agenda would have been impossible to pull off if they did. Because if everybody was taught about those founding principles, and I'm not saying like gloss over the bad things because
Hmm.
that's not right either. I mean, there is no perfection in humanity. We're all in a fallen state. It's always been this way.
Right.
So, we have to accept that that can't be the standard, but we can, you know, always try to be better and learn. And what their entire attitude, if all of that stuff was absolutely focused on, because your goal is to raise people that are informed and aware and independent and sovereign and all that, then I think we would have a much healthier country in just every way possible. But if you're trying to pull off, like rotting from the inside, the most powerful, freest country that's ever existed, that's the way to do it. You got to get
Mm-hmm.
into the academia and poison the well over time. And they've done it slowly and slowly. And this is a problem. And so we have to just change the discussion. That's why I believe the answers are in the past, not in, ever since Woodrow Wilson really was
Yeah. I'm
who
glad you brought
signed
him
the
up.
Fed into law. Yeah. I mean, horrible progressive, did
One term president that
enormous.
nobody ever talks about. He just gets forgotten in history and he kind of butt fucked us pretty hard 100 plus
Yeah,
years ago, you know?
for sure. Absolutely. And I would say one of the first really openly globalist kind of progressive presidents. And we've had several that have just been nightmarish for the cause of freedom. If you're,
Mm-hmm.
I would say the NPCs kind of love that because they don't have to think about anything and they just exist and go on, and they don't, but for those that are really dialed into our consciousness, like let's
Yes.
that know that, man, this is wrong. What's going? Well, we have to go back to the Declaration of Independence. We have to really think critically about the importance of the Bill of Rights. And this coming down on people because they say things that hurt your feelings. Well, sorry, that's the First Amendment. Grow a
Right.
set. It's like it's you know, I have my character has been defamed in ways unimaginable
I
for
know.
most
Yeah.
people.
And it's
And
crazy. But yeah, continue.
but
It's
that's
crazy.
there is a point where it's free speech. Defamation's a different thing, but if somebody wants to call me a fascist and a racist, I'm like, so what? Go ahead. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything because you guys have like used that so often that those words don't have power anymore. They're like, it doesn't mean anything because you're just saying it to things that are it's obscene. It's just like,
Yeah.
but it's still you have the freedom to say it. So
I
go
mean, like
ahead.
the cognitive dissonance of like, say whether it's just a regular person on the internet in a comment section, or whether it's, you were on, you reported on news reports and stuff like that with your name called out and everything. These people are willing to throw you under the bus for walking in Capitol building. Meanwhile, they won't say dick about our tax dollars blowing up kids all over the world, and you're like,
I know.
what is worse? You know what I mean? Like, isn't it the
Right.
people's house? Isn't one of those? So let's kind
That's
of
what
get
they
into that.
said, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently not. You got to have access, I guess. But let's kind of get into that a little bit because I want to ask, like, you made me think of two things a little bit ago where, as you were saying, the founding fathers trying to find any way to keep a person out of a jail cell. But then basically post 9/11, we've been able to use, oh, domestic terrorist, and we throw your rights away and your due process and all your bullshit. Is like, okay, is that kind of what you experienced when you were jailed? Was it like, I mean, did you know when you went in a day you were going to get out, or did you, like a lot of other
No.
January 6thers, it could be 2 days, it could be 2 years. Like they don't have to tell you shit because they can label that domestic terrorist or whatever kind of thing. Like, did they label that on you? And then also, like I said, I guess you just answered, but anyways, yeah, you get what I'm saying?
They didn't. I mean, I don't. It wasn't official, but the thing that they were using to quash our constitutional rights was COVID. I mean,
Yes.
that was the one of the big things that they used, of not being able to get, a speedy trial or due process.
Oh, yes.
There's
Okay, I see.
a lot of that kind of stuff was happening, and being able to have attorney-client privilege, being, not able to get to the law library. There was a lot of really shady stuff went on, but I don't think from a legal standpoint that they were calling people domestic terrorists, but they did. I believe that they treated us that way
Yeah.
because we didn't get, our rights were stomped all over. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, you were basically in what, about 90 days, 89 days, something like that. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
89 days. And then what's also interesting about this is like, so you apparently found Christianity in that time as well, correct?
Well, it started in there,
Okay. I've heard you
but
say
it
a few
was,
things about that before, but yeah.
yeah, it was later on. Um, I think around 8 months to a year after that, I really committed
Hmm.
myself to it and got baptized. I was baptized when was a baby, but that, that was something my parents did. I wanted to do it myself, but it started in there. And I think what really happened during that time was that I realized that this is absolutely a spiritual war, like
Yeah.
that this is real. And the things that I learned as growing up as a Christian, the problem for me and for many people is that we grow up in a Christian environment, but we see then the flaws of man, whether it's
Mhm.
in at the pulpit. For me, I went to a Lutheran school for 5 years when I was a kid, and I saw a lot of stuff that was not great there. And
Hmm.
it caused me to rebel. But what you have to understand is that's not Jesus doing that. That's
Right.
man doing that. That's flawed men. That's flawed human beings doing the things that, and so we have a problem. People have a problem separating those two things. They just get angry. They get hurt first, then they get angry, and then they rebel. And that's what happens with the church often. And it's just probably in some ways a lack of good messaging from the church saying, hey, these, you've got bishops and you've got pastors and stuff that are they do horrible things with children. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's not it's not the norm, but it happens.
But that's
And
just
when
positions of power. I mean, in a
it
short,
is,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it is. And it's also it's the fallen state. People are
Hmm.
messed up. So it, but that's not, just because they're Christians doesn't mean that they're like all of a sudden they're not going to sin. They do.
Yes.
And so that ends up becoming a thing where I think the church could do a better job at saying, there's a difference between Jesus and what we as the church sometimes behave as.
Right.
I think that's an important thing that when I talk to people, like in one-on-one situation about this, that have experiences or they've seen a lot of hypocrisy, that they have some anger, resentment from their youth, like I did.
Yep. Yep.
But you got to be able to separate. You got to separate the two things out. And I just realized in the middle of all that, and I started to feel it in COVID that something was really different. And then it all came into view going through it that, man, this is evil. Like, this is real evil.
Yeah.
This isn't stuff that you're going to hear on a death metal album or a watching a movie. This is the real stuff. And I was in the middle of it. I was in the thick of it, facing it. And it just, as I went through the process, I just became, the more that I studied Christ's words and without the filters and with taking away all of the stuff from my past and
Hmm.
the bias that I had and the anger that I had, that I put that all away. And then it started hitting me and realizing that it's all in there. All of it is in there.
Right.
And that it's different. It's the most amazing historical document there is. And back in the days, those days when Jesus walked and before, people were more aware of the spiritual war.
A hundred
They
percent,
were
dude.
they were very aware of it. And this
Hmm.
is that we've been sort of disconnected from everything. And I
Because
think
they
it's
knew the woo woo and the weird stuff. It's not sci-fi. It's like it's not fiction. They knew these things existed. I mean, you
yeah,
had, sorcerers and witchcraft and wizardry and other crazy things that are basically like taboo and 90% of the time 100% bad. But the fact is like the average person back then was aware of those things. They were
yes,
more,
they were.
even if they didn't agree with it, they were like, dude, there's some sorcery and some weird shit in the world. And like,
Yep.
nowadays we're just so desensitized and we live in our bread and circus. And I'm a New York
Yep.
Knicks fan, but you watch New York right now, like, hey, the Knicks lost one game and then they, riot in the streets, and then the Knicks win the finals and then they riot in the streets. And you're like, people are so distracted with the dumbest shit right now. And it's like,
Mhm. Yeah.
but yeah, it's like people used to be aware. And the funny thing is like the historical accuracy of a lot of like I get why people want to say, "Oh, Christianity is this or it's oppressive or it's whatever." No, it's not, okay? It's
No, no.
basically letting you know that we're all born with problems. We're all born wrong. We're all sinners, and that's why Jesus was here because basically he was to send the physical message of God that God's not just in this omnipresent spot. He is right here next to you. And then you watched the living flesh die, get reborn, and basically like it gave us this salvation, basically.
Yes.
But
Right.
my point of all that is that you get the wars against all these other religions. And my point is like, okay, I'm a Christian, but when you actually have a conversation with a Muslim person, they believe Jesus exists. They're just like, well, we just don't know
Mm.
if he was the son of God. We know he was a very influential man and he was amazing. And they talk about it all the time. The Hindus actually reference when Jesus disappeared for years before he died. There's weird stories of like India that Jesus apparently I don't know if I believe it, but there's thoughts that Hindus actually believe in Jesus. My point is like it's not this oppressive thing that just because somebody else's religion is different, it means we have to have an instant argument. It's like, no, dude, there's
No,
historical
no.
accuracies to these things, man. And if we're fans of history, then the Bible's part of it.
Well, yeah. And besides that, and you're right. About all that, the the fact that this country was founded on Christian principles
Hmm.
has allowed, everybody benefits from that in in this Euro because it's the Christians that are the most tolerant, actually.
Welcoming. Yes.
Yes, welcoming, and atheists benefit from living in a Christian like society like ours, which is, it's obviously deteriorated for a long time, but
Yeah.
I just believe that's clearly the plan of the enemy. I mean, why wouldn't it be? But if they're it's not oppressive, it's the most freeing and the most loving, and that's obvious. And there we have welcomed everybody into this country of all faiths or no faith, or
Yeah.
that's it's you can't say that about a lot of places that are would be ruled as a theocracy. And I don't know, I don't personally know any Christians that are, you have to believe the way I say, or you're
Right.
excommunicated. It's just not realistic. So a lot of those things are clearly just lies from the enemy. And
Yeah.
if you have to attack those things, if you want to take the country in a direction that's dark, you have to go after that. You have to like make it look like it's bad, and
Yeah.
it's not.
Well, the idea of like killing off religion, and was it Nietzsche that said God is dead and whatnot, and whether he meant it as God is literally dead or just the idea of people aren't its followers as much. Then you got John Lennon saying the Beatles are bigger than Jesus Christ, which is a controversial statement, but it's actually possibly true, I guess, at the time when the Beatles were the biggest thing on the planet. But it's still shitty to say. But my point
Yeah.
is with Rockefeller education system. Like I'm going to do a little circle back to this thing with this thing. So Rockefeller education system, we're talking about, you know, uh, scientism and all of the above. We tried to kill off religion, and a lot of atheists are the trust the science people. So they don't really believe in religion, but they do believe in a religion. They believe in the white coats. They believe in this whole scientism crowd. That is their religion. That's the trust the science. That's the same as just saying have faith. And
Yeah.
in the establishment, the guy in the white, the angel coming down, Dr. Fauci, right? But
Right.
it's kind of funny that I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's been a pretty big resurgence on Christianity in the past
Yeah.
5 years, maybe a decade,
Yep.
but for sure 5 years.
Yep. Yeah. There is a revival happening. That's for sure. So that's a good thing. Um, but I would say that those people they're free to believe that, that's fine. It's just don't force me to go into that direction. This is where
Hmm.
it comes to the live and let live thing. And I know a lot of atheists that are super awesome, reasonable people.
Yeah.
They really are. Like I
They're
don't, and
more
I'm not going to,
logical in ways that if there's not an answer there, they're not going to sign off on it, I guess, right?
yeah, but it's just, I don't know, God moves. I would have never thought 5 years ago that I would be saying I'm a Christian. I would spend a lot of my time angry at religion. And I do see religion different than being in a relationship with Christ. You know, that when we say,
Yes,
when people say, "Are you religious?" I'm like, "No, I'm in a relationship with Christ."
I
You know,
like that.
and because it's the problem is that organized religions have become a thing that I believe has hurt the church. You know, because they tend to be, you know, there's a lot of infighting amongst the different denominations, and there's tons of different denominations, and this is also the fall of man. This is the tribalism. So
Yes.
it's in our nature to do that. Um, the people at the top of those things, I think they have an agenda. I think that if you want to wreck something and rot something, then you have to be divisive. And so we're we're falling into that trap as a culture. I mean, the you're talking about social media earlier, and everybody addicted to their cell phones. Well, you know, that's even added. It's great because you have this ability to get information and you can communicate. It's a double-edged sword, but you also have the people that just all of a sudden get really courageous and behind their computer or their phone
Yep.
and spew things that they would never say to your face. And that creates all of this negativity, excuse me, out there on the internet, where I think a lot of reasonable people, and they just don't even want to like comment or get involved because it's just ridiculous, like hateful infighting
Yeah.
about the most ridiculous things. I mean,
You
look,
could watch a cat video and go to the comment section, and there's people saying, "I'm a dog person," or "I'm a what." I mean, you're going to argue just to argue, you know? Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not a social media guy. Of course, we use that to promote stuff, but I have a team of people that work on those things, and I don't personally engage. And we did a contest for a fan video for Sons of Liberty. And today I think it was today the winner was announced.
Oh, cool.
And the guy that won used AI. And I don't care. I don't like AI, and I've vowed that I will never use it in my music. But
Yeah.
look, to so I saw some fighting on YouTube and people complaining about it. And I'm like, look, guys, you're using big tech by leaving your comment on YouTube, which is owned by Google, or
Right.
you're talking shit on Facebook, which is Meta. It's all the same. And just because a guy who to win a $125 gift certificate from Iced Earth Merch didn't want to spend $100,000 doing a production on a video,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he used AI. He did it really brilliantly and really creatively. And I'm telling these guys, this is my message to them right now: use the tools of the system while you can to push back and to maybe inspire people to wake up, which is what this guy did with Jekyll Island. He did. It's entertaining. It makes you think. If you're awake, you know exactly what he's saying. If you're not, it might make you go, wait a minute, what is this? And then start
Yes.
looking. And I'm like, that I will not use AI personally, but what do they expect? I mean, how are you going to make something visually killer for a reasonable budget? Like, I know what it takes to do things like this, having been in music production and done videos back in the days when videos were really expensive.
Oh, fucking expensive. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
man. And it's like that. it, I'm I'm not going to condemn the guy for using the tools
Yeah.
of systems that we think are. I think the data centers and all that stuff. I think it's really dangerous where we're going. But while you have the freedom to use that, which they've all been doing anyway, I mean, imagine where we would be if we didn't have. I never used Twitter, but if we didn't have it like
Yeah.
that, and now X, Elon's like freed it up, so there's more free speech. And but before all that, you didn't have a way to communicate and share this information. So
Hmm.
it's a double-edged sword. I'm saying use their sword against them.
Yeah.
Why not? There's nothing
Exactly.
wrong with it, you know. And so anyway, that was a thing that came out today, and it actually it's a pretty cool video, and we had a couple
Hell yeah. I'll
runners
check
up,
that out.
but yeah, it was good.
Did he put it like, did he send you the guys a video or, I mean, because I always put everything in the show notes, everything, like links and whatever. So if there's like a YouTube video of it, or I'll find it on the page and then I'll put that in the link as well to, or, in the show notes. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that'd be
cool,
cool.
man. Like what
It's on
people can,
YouTube. It's on YouTube, and it's on the I know the girl that's running all our social media put it on the Jon Schaffer Sons of Liberty Facebook page. So
okay, cool,
it's
cool.
there. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I'll
there.
put that link on there too. But yeah,
Cool.
dude, it's like, you got to kind of adapt with technology. People shit on Bob Dylan when he went electric instead of acoustic or whatever. It's like, dude, the times are changing. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't even make mean to make that Bob Dylan reference as well. No pun intended. But I wanted to think like you brought up like the kids, the atrocities of the world, the shit that like not just like what our kids are seeing on social media or things like that, but I mean, dude, like when we were talking about red and versus blue and left versus right and all that crap, like what are your thoughts on the Epstein shit? I mean, I mean, is there any way like other than Tree of Liberty needs to, be refreshed with the blood of tyrants kind of thing? Like I mean, is because we were talking about the court system and stuff. Are we going to really allow the courts? Because apparently today, Harvey Weinstein just got off because one of his accusers didn't want to go on the stand again or whatever. Blah blah blah. So my point is like our system is actually kind of fucking crooked. Do we really, or do you have any thoughts of like, is anybody gonna be held accountable? Ghislaine Maxwell is sitting in jail trafficking to no one. How do you traffic to nobody?
Yeah, I really don't know, dude. I know this that anything just from my own experience, anything in the justice system takes a really long time. It
Yep.
takes a really, really long time to get resolved. And when you get into this kind of stuff where you've got so many powerful people, I I think this is completely in God's hands. I mean, we do have a lot of corruption. Obviously, we have a big problem. I still I I believe in the end truth is going to win. Now,
Mm-hmm.
do we deserve grace? I don't know. If we have many billions of dollars a year worth of the people are making from child porn and that kind of crap, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. I pray for it. I know that there are many good people around the country that are trying to do the right thing and that are praying for our country and trying to make a difference. I just think it's all about mercy at this point, and
Yeah.
maybe it's um, the scales being removed from their eyes that's going to make the difference. But I know God answers prayer, but
Mm-hmm.
it's always on His time. And I think about the monumental task that our founders were up against. They did it.
Yeah.
They did it with God's help only,
Yeah.
clearly. So if you can think of what they had to go through, like that's where we need to look, besides to Christ, but we need to look at those guys because they were God-fearing men. And even the ones that weren't, they there were people that weren't believers but
Mm-hmm.
they knew that was the right kind of system to have the most freedom and the most prosperity. So they got behind it, even if they weren't, but most of them were. And we just have to, we do have to do the right thing and we have to push back. But you can't get, I mean, look, like I said, I'm a self defense absolutist,
Mm-hmm.
but we cannot be the aggressors. We're never going to win in this kind of a situation. This is a whole different thing. The enemy to the founders was across the Atlantic, and
Yeah.
it was a war of attrition, and it was all, they lost most of the battles, but they didn't quit.
Blockades and stop them
Yes.
from getting in. And yeah, we're already in the middle of,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
different situation.
It's totally different. And therefore, we need to just remain peaceful
Mm-hmm.
and push forward and try to inspire people to reconfigure their mindset. And it really boils down to making people think about freedom,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't think about it anymore. I mean, look at this. I can't believe I was just out in New Hampshire and Maine and Massachusetts I was in those three states right there because they're all too close together. And the fulfillment company for Sons of Liberty and the guys that do the t-shirts are out there
Oh,
in New
nice.
Hampshire. But there was no sign of the 250 anywhere. And it's
Yeah.
it's like there's no pride anymore. There's no we the whole founding era has been demonized so much that people they feel this, it's a very unjust disgust for our country, and it's because they've been misled.
Yeah.
So we have to try to like inspire them to understand where they come from, who their ancestors are, what they did, the amazing things. Yes, They made mistakes. They did bad things also, but everybody does. That
Hmm.
doesn't give them a pass, but you should look at them as inspiration for what they pulled off against the most powerful military and empire in the world at that time. And they didn't want this to turn into an empire. And it took a long time to get it to where it did. And you're looking at the progressive era, you're looking at from the creation of the Fed, that's when things really started to go badly. And
Right.
we need to have those kind of discussions and try to get people to educate themselves or have discussions with reasonable people on whatever side of the political aisle to talk about these fundamental individual sovereign free rights, freedom, liberty,
Yes.
the responsibilities that go with it, and the I mean, it's. I don't know of another way where we're going to be able to get to peace and prosperity. I don't. I don't. I just don't see how any form of aggression or any form of statism is going to lead to more peace and more prosperity. They never have.
Right.
Never.
I mean,
These systems aren't.
a couple thoughts on that. It's like, okay, so you're talking about like the modern people that hate America now, and then there's also guys that like, I mean, I don't mean this in any offense, but you're obviously older than me, but I grew up with a military family. I grew up loving America, being patriotic, but also reading history books and then staying informed. And then you get to the point where you realize the America you love is not necessarily the America we live in anymore. And there's a
Right.
difference because the ones that hate America now think that this is how America's always been. There's guys like you and me that are informed of what it once was, and we're trying to bring it back to that, like constitutionalists or whatever you would like to label us, because it's the things that like you realize, don't know what you got till it's gone, like Cinderella
Yeah.
said, right?
Right.
And we're in this mode now where it's not that I'll have people that are like super diehard Republican, Trump never does no wrong, and I post something that, what do you guys think about Trump saying this? Or what do you think about the Republicans doing this? Or like, what do you hate America? And I'm like, no, I'm just not so stupid. And I have critical thinking to say, like, doesn't matter what side the aisle it is, this is a wrong thing to do. Or where were you at when I called out Obama? Where were you at when I called out Biden? It's like, I'm
Yep.
not some loyalist to the red or the blue or whatever. I'm loyalist to the red, white, and blue, man.
There you go,
And
man. Right on.
and here's a thought that like okay, so you're talking about like the founding fathers, the Constitution, and then it seems like the only ones that kind of really tried to uphold some of that shit within the past year or two is Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene. We've seen what happened to them. They got kicked out of the cool kids club all of a sudden, like George Carlin. It's a big club, and you ain't in the big club. And it's like, what are your thoughts on Massey, man? I kind of love the hell out of him. I don't want to trust a politician, but I love Massey for being very libertarian, even though he's labeled a Republican, and actually just trying to put both sides of the aisle on the coals.
Yeah. I I like. Excuse me, man. I like some of his rhetoric for sure. I think he reminds me of a Ron Paul kind of a guy.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't really know because there's so much shady stuff going on. Like I don't know what to think, and I don't concern myself as much with that kind of stuff anymore because I realize this is the spiritual war, and we are living in the age of deception. And I just
Yeah. I got you.
I don't really know.
You don't
So
want to
I
buy
can't.
into it. I get you. Yeah. It's
No, I mean, I don't because
because
I
it could be
don't.
another distraction.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and I don't. I just don't know. I don't. So I don't really. And I'm become a political atheist again because
I love it.
it just seems that it doesn't really matter the way things are going and the way that our system is built anyway, that if we want to effectuate change, we have to do it at the local level. I mean, that's really where it begins because the federal system has, because I think it's been inverted. Like instead of
They
bottom
tricked
up,
us.
it's
Yeah.
top down, and we have the tools there if we would just utilize them to turn it around. But it's got to be done at in your local jurisdiction at your state level.
Hmm.
And there are some good things happening in certain states around the country, and that's that's one of the big deals. One of the things that's going on that I think is super cool is I don't know if you've seen goldbacks. Oklahoma's got them now.
Goldbacks. I mean, like
Have
kind of
you
like
seen?
greenbacks, like old, like I mean, like
Well,
was it like a monetary thing or explain
yep.
it? Yeah.
So there's been a lot of people pushing for sound money on the state levels. And so in Utah, this company came up. They're called Goldback. If you go to, I think it's goldback.com,
Okay.
and you'll see. And they started there. It's in Arizona, Nevada, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Florida, uh, New Hampshire. There are several states that are coming on, but these are they started with 1/1000th of an ounce of gold, so hyper fractionalized
Mm,
in a a beautiful design bill that's like a plastic. It's a polymer that's nearly indestructible, and
cool.
they're allowing people to use that for trade. If a store says I'll take goldbacks, it's legal. You're not going to get in trouble for doing it in these states that
I
have it.
love it.
So you actually can hang on to your goldbacks and then go into a store that is voluntarily accepting them, and then you'll look at the daily rate of what a goldback is going for. And I mean, if you started buying them when they were $2 and then now they're 10, you've preserved your purchasing power, and you can go in and buy, and they'll give you change in Federal Reserve notes, but they're allowing it. That's the big deal. And
Interesting.
yeah, it's super cool, man. I mean, Wyoming has it too. There's several states that are on, and there's more coming.
We
Even
need that
California.
with this CBDC shit coming in, man. We need
Yes.
stuff like that. Yes.
Yeah, that's why they're doing it. And that's what I'm saying. The answers lie. These are people that have understanding, that are pushing their state legislatures to do this kind of stuff, and they're not stopping. It takes constant pressure.
Hmm.
So that's where the solutions lie. Like at this point, trying to change the federal government, I mean, it's
Yeah.
how is that going to happen? It's not, I don't see how it's really going to happen until
We have
the
to
people start
survive
taking
it. Yeah.
yeah, the people have to start taking back their states, and that's really where I think that's the only way out of this, peacefully, and that's what we need to do, because this is this is a whole different thing, man. It's a whole different thing than
Hmm.
in 1776 or even in the Civil War. I mean, we're talking about you want to talk
Yeah.
about a technological terror?
Yeah,
Come on,
well,
like
okay,
this.
technological and shit, and then also bringing up like CBDCs and stuff, man. Like, I want to actually, you got me thinking, and I bring this up a lot on my show, but I didn't even plan on bringing this up until just what we were just talking about. But like, what are your thoughts on the AI data centers and stuff everywhere right now? Because let me say this real fast. When you said we need to localize and look at our local elections and stuff, it's like the call is coming from inside the house. Quit worrying about your neighbor and get your kid off fentanyl or whatever else. Deal with your own problem locally first before spreading to somebody else's problems. But with AI data centers, I live in Okmulgee. They're about to build one here in I'm like the hour south of Tulsa, but they're about to build one here to the everybody that in town has been protesting it. They've been having town hall meetings. Everybody's been protesting it, and they basically said, "Fuck you, we're building it
Yeah,
anyway." We saw the stories of a bunch of other states where they're doing that too. So people, it's like they're trying to manufacture a civil war. We see the race war going
yes,
on with the
for
Carmelo
sure.
Anthony and the white kid Austin Metcalf. We see all this, like, the algorithms boost all these things because all of a sudden, I don't know if you said good for you for not being on social media if you're not on very often, but just scrolling by, every other story is now black person does this to white person. And you're like, they're showing you this for a reason. They're trying to
Yes.
make you mad at a certain group instead of the higher group. And then, like, back to like the data centers, like I'm saying, it's all algorithms, it's all data collection. They know what the fuck they're doing, and they're manipulating our minds with mind control. And then when we try to use our voices, they don't even give a fuck. So then now
Yep.
people are going to go take to the streets, which is literally problem reaction solution, exactly
Yep.
what they want us to do so they can have their solution, and it's
Yeah.
messed up. What do you think about this
Yeah.
data center shit?
Well, I look, it's clear what they're doing, and I've seen, I think it might have been Utah where there was some pretty serious outrage, like they're just completely ignoring the will of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's a fight, and it's not just like a one and done. It's constant. This is the struggle. And so the people just have to keep the pressure up and keep fighting. And I don't know. I mean that rhetorically, not physically, like go out and commit violence, but
Keep up
push,
the
push, push.
defense. Yeah, keep the
Yes.
defense up. Yep.
Yeah. And I don't, I mean, it can't be leading to a good place. I have friends of mine that really believe that these things are going to be, somehow used for good. And when it comes to putting all of the finances and stuff on the blockchain. And I'm like, guys, seriously? I mean, how can you think? I mean, okay, if it wasn't abused conceptually, maybe I could see your argument. But since when are powerful people not going to abuse? Like that'd be the first time in history. And some people believe that this is a way to, like, everything's going to be on the blockchain and they'll never be able to get away with trafficking children and stuff. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that. Like,
Or you'll
I
never be able
really,
to pay a 14-year-old neighbor to mow your yard $20. I mean, you'll never be able to do
yeah,
that because you won't be, it won't be tracked.
yeah, I don't know. But this is where this is like, we're kind of under assault from every angle
Every
possible.
angle.
And so, the, with states doing this kind of thing with the gold backs, it just, every time that we can have something that resembles a win, we have to like acknowledge it so that we don't get so far down into a
Hmm.
state of depression. We have to take the victories where we get them, and there are some. And so I don't know, man. I don't see any good coming out of less privacy and more control for private corporations to sell our data. I mean, besides investors getting like extremely wealthy, who would really think that this is a good thing? Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't see, and you look at where AI is and how fast it's developing, and it won't be long before they're going to, right now you can tell. If you have a
Hmm.
discerning eye, you can tell, but it won't be that long. And
Yeah.
what they actually have is probably 1,000 times more powerful than
Yes.
what's been fed to the public. So when they can do videos and propagandize the people to a level with that kind of stuff,
False
I mean, it's
flag time.
all
False
kinds of stuff.
flags. Yep. Because
Okay.
we'll see, I don't know how deep you get into like the 9/11 rabbit hole, but there's people like what you just said. And I do believe that 9/11 was completely conscripted. There was a bunch of effery going on with everything. Like, but yeah, I don't think there's a complete like there was too many. It was a fish in a barrel. Too many people shooting the fish at once to be able to say it was this guy, this guy, this guy. It was all of them basically. They all conspired. But my point is there's people that'll say like, well, the videos that you saw of the planes hitting were holograms and blah blah blah. And I'm not saying that's true, but I'm getting at people said that years ago, and they'll say that well, the government's always this many X amount of years ahead of what we see anyways. So it's
Yeah.
going to be like right now, if you know that AI is prevalent and everywhere on videos, there's a little uncanny valley that you can notice where you're like, that's almost real looking, but there's something funky about it. The lighting is
Yep.
weird or the skin texture, something's off.
Yep.
But if we're able to do that with our Google search right now, then they could be showing us videos on the news tomorrow that are completely fake and AI. And whether it's Biden, whether it's Trump, whether it's war, whether it's Project Bluebeam, fake alien invasion, whatever. Like we don't know because we're just gonna see this video and we're half retarded and we're just gonna go, "Oh my God, did you see what the news told me?" The same
Yeah.
news that's been lying to you since the inception of
Yes.
news.
Right.
Like that's the irony.
Yeah. And it's obviously all that stuff. I don't, getting back to like what you're saying about trying to push a race war, and there's all this Jew hatred now. And I have a problem with that, man, because I don't like groupthink. And
No,
I have a lot of people that I know personally that have been in my band or crew, and many people that are amazing Jewish people. So you're not
mhm.
going to get me to take that psyop and like all of a sudden make them the boogeyman of the world.
There's bad
Now,
people in every group. Yeah, not everyone. The
every
problem
group.
I have with it, I don't want to cut you off again. Sorry, but I think there's a lot of Jew hatred that is sometimes there's a lot of retards on the internet, but there's also this calling out of just corruption of the country of Israel, not necessarily the people, but the government, just like we are calling out our government here. And then that gets masked with, well, that's anti-Semitic. And you're like, no, that's protected class bullshit. Like if somebody's doing something bad, then they need to be called out. But I'm with you. There's a lot on
Yeah.
the internet of like, hate the Jews everywhere. And you're like, it's not
Yep.
all the Jews, man. Look at the Bank of England. Look at
No.
this other shit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's not, it's definitely not. I mean, some of the most heavy, serious freedom fighter like authors,
Yeah.
Ludwig von Mises
Mises. Yep.
yeah, Mises and Murray Rothbard and
Rothbard.
Ayn
Yep.
Rand. I mean, all these people, not all of them, a lot of them were Jewish and they're hardcore liberty people. So I just can't get into that level of groupthink. However, I will say, why aren't people, all the people, does Israel, the government of Israel, have power in our government? Yes. Do the
Yes.
Chinese? Yes. Does the city of London? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How many? Let's go down the list. First of all, lobbying should just be outlawed. There
I
shouldn't be any
agree.
money. And so it feels like a psyop that everybody's focused on that. What happened to the Chi-Coms? What happened to all
Mm-hmm.
of the other influence that around the world of things that are happening? And then the corporations, let's talk about how much influence they have over the political class. Like
They're
there's just,
globalists. They're not loyalists. Yeah, exactly. They don't
yeah,
care what country as long as they're paid.
right. So I cannot partake in any kind of groupthink. And I see whether it's like black versus white or anybody versus anybody. Are you into freedom? I don't care what color your skin is. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care what God you worship. You're free to do that. Can you fight with me for freedom, for a better future for humanity? That's the only thing I care about.
Yeah.
That's it. And so I don't, but it just is weird. There's a lot of really, really divisive stuff going on, and we got to be careful not to buy into it because you're right. We are clearly being manipulated into something. They're trying.
Mm-hmm. And it's just one of those like a John Wick movie or something. All the assassins are in the hotel. It's just a matter of who's going to take out John Wick on the first movie. It's like one of those like it's all these groups. Like nobody talks about the Jesuits. Nobody talks about this. Nobody, it's like it's not you want to if they're pointing the finger right now at the Jays, the Jews, whatever you want to call them, there's a reason why they're doing that. They didn't allow you to do that 10 years ago on the internet. You'd get canceled immediately. Why do you get blown up if you talk about it right now? Because they're orchestrating it with
Something.
algorithms. Algorithms, man. The
Yeah.
algorithms aren't reality. We're living in a false reality and they know what they're doing. And, I don't want to keep you all night, man. And I've loved this. I would love to do this again. Honestly, I feel like I
We
could talk to
can.
you all day. History, dude. I'm a big history buff. Let's do an episode just going into deep dive of some fucking badass old battle or something. But
That'd be
man,
cool.
like we are being manipulated, and
We
and
are.
that's the thing is like we need to all just come together, put our differences aside, and just realize like, hey, we're all on the same page. Like I have an elderly black lady that lives next to me, middle-aged Mexican dude that lives on the other side of her, white guy that lives on the other side of me right here without kids. If I listen to CNN or Fox News or whatever, they tell me those are my enemies. And
Yes.
meanwhile, I can go hang out and have a barbecue with each one of them and nobody talks about race relations or nothing. We're just people
Right.
living and cooperating together in society. And that's what we need to get back to. We
Yeah.
live
And
in
well,
division.
yes. And that's what actually we are. And that's why I believe that the the reasonable people, we have way more in common, and we can certainly disagree with each other, but we have way more in common about the fundamentals. And this is crucial to keep this message going and to have discussions with people of whatever walks of life, whatever color, because I don't I do not believe that America is a racist country. Not at all. Are there
Mm-mm.
some people that are racist? Yes, of course. Are they free to be? Yes. Are they allowed to aggress? No. That's the difference. You can't get into somebody's head or try to have the thought police. That's why I named this album Thought Crimes. You can't
Mm-hmm.
you can't do that. If somebody, my attorney, Mark Victor, who was the lead counsel through my criminal case,
Uh-huh.
he's a Jewish dude. He's one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met in my life. He is one of the most committed people to freedom that I have ever met in my life. And he is full of love. And he's an atheist, but he is just an amazing human being and on fire for liberty. And he's the first guy that'll say, if a guy has a business that says we don't serve Jews and we don't serve blacks, he's like, well, I'm not going to hang out with the guy and I'm not going to give him business, but I'll damn sure defend his right to have that sign up.
I
That's where
like
he's
that.
at
I
because
like that.
he is a freedom guy. It's not about all the people that agree with you. You have to stand up for freedom for the people that disagree with you. That's where the rubber meets the road
Yes.
because that's how we get to a place where we can learn to live with the differences as long as we don't aggress. The minute that somebody gets aggressive, whether that's fraud, force, coercion, breaking a fiduciary responsibility, there's many forms of aggression. But if you can just let the people live, however, as long as they're not aggressing, then this is the way forward. And it's actually fundamentally the root of what America is. And we
Right.
have to get back to that, and we can make it even better if we get our shit together.
Yep.
So,
We need to make the
it's,
understanding all walks of life are welcome as long as you're welcome to the other walks of life that are already existing here. I'm not going to
yeah,
force my beliefs on you as well as you don't force yours on mine, and we should be golden.
right.
It's the
And
way
we're
it should
talking,
be.
it's a little bit different that, with when we're talking about people coming illegally and not,
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
yeah. But it's also sort of I think it should be mandated if you want to become an American. You need to understand the country that you're coming to,
Yep.
because you need to understand what we're about and where we come from. We need to defend that vigorously so that we don't lose our culture, because the culture isn't about the the skin tone. It's about the ideas that freedom used to be the
Mm-hmm.
most important thing. You look at what's happened over in Europe, and
Oh my God.
I've traveled there for decades, and they're
I've
the way
never
they're
been to
headed.
Europe. Is it unrecognizable at this point?
Well, I haven't been there in, I guess,
Okay.
2019. The 2019 was the last time I've been there because of all the stuff that went down. But, um, you can see a point in the future where if they stay on this path, the beautiful thing about Europe is that there are all those different cultures. You have
Mhm.
the German, the Dutch, the Italians, the Swiss, the British, well, they're not really part of Europe,
They're
but
just a
still
skip
it's
away
there.
from each other, but yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You get the Scandinavian culture, whether it's, Denmark or Sweden, you have all the French, the Italians, the Greeks, like all these different, they have their own foods, their own language, their
Hmm.
own thing. And it's a beautiful thing, because the one thing that's taught me about being able to travel the world and play in all these places, that most people, they just want to live and let live. They
Hmm.
really want to just take care of their families and live their lives. They are manufacturing all this hate and division, and the one way that we can assuredly beat them is if we do not acquiesce and play their game.
Yep.
That's it. If we work together, then we're unstoppable. But we have to decide what is this thing that we're working together on, and if it's freedom and liberty, and to make that the essential root cause that brings us together, then I think we're unstoppable, actually. And then I can see the enemy falling apart completely. But it's going to take something like that.
I love it. And the people that want to, say, well, these people aren't welcome or they're whatever, there's a little more to the story where everybody's welcome in America, but if you're getting pissed off at a lot of groups of people, why don't you rewind history just about 10, 15, 20 years and stop bombing the fuck out of other countries and displacing people and then being pissed about it 20 years later when they're in your fucking country and they're not assimilating because your country accepts them in, even though you
Yep.
gave the thumbs up to blow their fucking shit, their country into a shithole. So it's this weird irony that, like, the right will scream about these immigration problems, which there is immigration problems for sure,
Yeah.
100%. But they'll scream about these Somalians or these fucking Sudanese people or these Lebanon people or these Iranians or whoever's coming over here. You're like, well, wait a minute. If we maybe didn't blow their fucking houses up, they wouldn't have to come to our country in the first place. But yeah, it's
Right.
like we need to just stop being the police of the world. We need to
Yep.
focus on home. Focus
Yes.
on home. Quit focusing on the rest of the world because we ain't won a war since World War II. And technically, we haven't had a war since World War II. Wink, wink, because
Yeah.
it has to be authorized to Congress. But my point is like, okay, so we've seen all these failed attempts to go bring democracy and freedom to everybody, and it's kind of been a detriment to us here in America, whether financial, whether your city in Minneapolis gets overtaken by Somalis or whatever. I mean, it's like they're still just stoking that division to make you
Yep.
mad because we're already mad about shit. They know it. We're at that boiling point. That top of the freaking pot is about to fly off the roof.
And this
Anyways,
is
I'm
what
I'm
this is
rambling, but
what
yeah.
no, but this is what concerns me, especially like we were talking about all of the anti-Jew stuff and the racial divisions. I mean, if you look at where the parallels between the Weimar Republic
Yes.
and where we're at.
We're not too far. Yeah.
If we have a hyperinflationary event, we could be right there, and that's what that's a no go zone. I don't ever want to see any point in time, and I hope that we don't ever see where people again are rounded up into concentration camps
Hmm.
and that kind of stuff happens. And this is the danger of where we are, and they're it's like a tinderbox and they're stoking it,
Hmm.
and so if there is a collapse, it could go very badly. And this is, history repeats. And that's why I have the concerns that I do about any specific group being targeted. And then all of a sudden it's okay in the algorithm to show this. It's like, what is happening here?
Yep.
There's something more behind it. And I just look at history as the guide, and we're on a dangerous path, and we don't have to be. It's a choice.
Hmm. It's like the big old black lady always says, y'all need Jesus. And that's what a lot of us do, man. We need Jesus.
Yes.
We need,
Yeah.
and even if you don't believe in Jesus, you can, like I said earlier, as I'm coming to a close with this, I don't want to keep you all night, John, but definitely, dude, I'd love to do this again. But, all these other religions that I brought up actually recognize Jesus existed,
Yep.
So the fact that they'll say, like, oh, he's not our prophet, he's not our Messiah, he's not whatever, that's fine, but they'll still recognize that he was a good human. It's almost like you don't have to believe everything in the Bible, but if you go to just the words of Jesus itself, it's almost a little bit of a cheat code in life.
Sure.
It's like
Totally.
it kind of makes you like understand that everybody is flawed. Like we were saying in
Yes.
the beginning, everybody is good people. You just got to bring it out in them. And
Yep.
it's like I said, I go black pill a lot, but I like to end on a white pill.
Yeah,
John,
man. It's
you're
it's
awesome,
it's
man.
it's great to meet you, dude. We'll definitely do this again someday. I would enjoy
Absolutely.
that. So,
And I want to shout out Dominic, who I was talking to with the emails and everything. That's how this got set up and everything. So shout out to him. I appreciate it. And this is cool as shit, man. This is cool.
right on, dude. It's good talking to you, man.
Yeah, I
So,
appreciate it. Well, John, remind everybody where they can find you and what you got coming up, and I'll put all your links in the show notes and we'll do this again.
um, for Sons of Liberty, it's instead of just Sons of Liberty, because actually after J6, there were a couple other bands that popped up called Sons of Liberty. Um, one's in the UK, like a southern rock band. They're kind of cool. And then I
Good
think
for
there's
them. Hell yeah, yeah.
hardcore punk band, maybe from New England somewhere. But so we called it Jon Schaffer Sons of Liberty, just to change it up and differentiate it on the streaming services. But they can find basically the girl that's doing all the social media set up channels on all over the place, but it's under Jon Schaffer Sons of Liberty. So they can find that there. Iced Earth, any Sons like vinyl stuff is selling out, but there's some vinyl left, and there is some shirts, and that's at icedearthmerch.com. And icedearth.com is the website, and there's an Iced Earth Facebook page and whatever out there too. So I mean,
Awesome, man.
it's all there. All
I'll get
right.
all your links. Like I said, I'll put them in the show notes and everybody can find your stuff. John, you rule, man. And like I said, this is just cool. I grew up listening to you play, and then I get to talk to some of these people. All it takes is sending a message here and there. And I
Awesome,
appreciate
man.
your time, dude. God bless. And
God bless you. I
yeah, dude,
appreciate you
let's
too,
do
man.
this again. Stitt-Heads, don't forget. Don't forget to put the ass in classy. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. All right,
Hey,
man. That was
hey,
cool.
cool, man. Well, dude, it was good talking to you. We'll definitely stay in touch. If you ever want to do something, just write to Dom in the future
Uh-huh.
and let me know. Okay.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. And if you're ever in Oklahoma area, let me buy you a beer and a burger sometime. It'd be cool as hell.
Right on, man.
All
Sounds cool,
right.
brother.
Well,
All
you have
right.
a good
Take care,
evening.
man.
Thanks for your time.
You too. Bye bye.